Hello and welcome to the latest edition of The Exchange, brought to you by the New York Stock Exchange. I'm Douglas Jonas, your host, and I'm joined today by Jeremy Caprone. He is the partner and director of research at Robo Global. Jeremy, thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Now, as a reminder, today's interview is for informational purposes only. The NYC does not recommend investments or investment strategies. Jeremy, of course, you guys are very well known for your ETF Robo, ROBO. The last few years have certainly propelled technology into the forefront of what we talk about, what we see. How does the demand for robotics and automation look like post-COVID, and who's set to benefit the most from it?
This pandemic has been an enormous catalyst for the robotics and automation revolution. People and businesses have had to adapt to those dramatic and unexpected constraints in terms of the social distancing, the travel restrictions, access to workplaces, working from home. And in all cases and across virtually every economic sectors, it is technology and automation in particular that have been the direct answer. So, in a nutshell, it's fair to say the digitization of the economy, which was already well underway, was put on a turbocharger last year. And so far, this trend remains very strong in 2021. Today, automation has become a priority for business leaders across most industries. This is visible in the order books of the companies that we research and invest in. Many of these companies have been massive beneficiaries of this shift, especially companies in the areas of artificial intelligence, factory automation, logistics automation, enterprise software, and healthcare technologies. And you can see that also in the stock market. The Robo Index was up 45% last year, and so far in 2021, it's up around 14%.
So, Jeremy, e-commerce has certainly been a highlight among retailers for the last year. I'm curious, what are you seeing with respect to AI automation, with efficiencies and the way in which retailers think about e-commerce?
Yes, this is a really important area of robotics and automation. First, these are the key enablers of efficient logistics. Robotics and AI are the reason why online retailers are able to deliver on their promise of increasingly short delivery times, and to do that in a profitable way. There is an arms race in logistics automation, and that has been started by Amazon. Today, Amazon is operating more than 100,000 robots in its distribution centers for order fulfillment. And this is constantly raising the bar for everybody else who's competing for online retail. And it's not only online retail, it's also in stores. It's the entire logistics and transportation industry that needs to cope with this explosive growth in terms of the volumes of packages in transit today. And then also, when it comes to e-commerce, you can think about how AI is really helping drive sales. AI is increasingly good at making custom recommendations to consumers. They're tailored to the individual. And AI is really good at detecting patterns in terms of predicting what products are going to be in demand and when.
So one of the items I found so interesting when we were speaking is you had mentioned to me this idea of the labor shortages that we're seeing across the country right now. Talk to us a little bit about what you've mentioned around AI, automation, robotics, and how that can actually alleviate some of the shortages.
Well, on one side, you have this boom in consumer demand here in the US. And on the other side, you have supply bottlenecks. And that's in terms of production. That's also in terms of labor. And automation provides a clear answer to that. That's why we're now seeing more robots, not only on the factory floor, but also in warehouses and in hospitals. They're helping with surgery and pharmacy automation. You see robots on farms and precision agriculture. You see robots now in public areas, and now also in services. You think about the restaurant business. And now we're seeing robots at the check-in, taking your order, and even in the kitchen. So, robots are basically the answer to the task that we humans do not like to perform. And so in the robotics industry, we call them the 3Ds: dangerous, dull, and dirty. And that's where we start to see, broad adoption of robotics today.
I'd like to stay on that disruption theme with you. If we look back at COVID-19, certainly a lot of changes in the healthcare sector, whether it be telehealth, vaccines. I know you and your team are working a lot. Tell us what you're seeing with respect to the healthcare sector and where changes might come in the future.
We think healthcare is the next big sector that is going to be profoundly transformed by these technologies. And in the last few years, we've seen the convergence of robotics, AI, and life sciences, and that has enabled some breakthrough advances. If you think about it, now we have more than 6,000 robots around the world's hospitals assisting surgeons perform prostate and gynecology procedures. We have AI that can help physicians increase the accuracy of their diagnosis when they're reading medical imagery or biopsy results. We have 3D printed implants. We have miniature heart pumps the size of a fingernail. We have wearable devices that monitor your cardiac activity or your glucose level and helping people suffering from diabetes. There is so much happening just in the last few years, and perhaps most importantly, genomics, because now we have affordable gene sequencing technology, and that has opened the door to an entirely new medical approach. When it comes to detecting diseases at an early stage, we're now picking up genetic traces of cancerous cells in your bloodstream or in the nasal swab. It's an incredible time to be a doctor or patient or an investor in healthcare technologies.
Now, of course, Jeremy, you have a number of different ETFs listed here on the New York Stock Exchange. Could you share a little bit about some of those strategies?
We have 3 today. And those 3 strategies are specifically focused on the technology disruptors that are positioned to gain share in the current environment. And so we started with the Robo ETF. That was 8 years ago. We're celebrating the 8th anniversary this year. Robo is a research-driven selection of best-in-class robotics and automation companies from all around the world. And they are the technology and market leaders. And we use a scoring system to assess eligibility to the portfolio. And we rebalance every quarter. This has worked really well over the years. And more recently, we started 2 new strategies that are focused on areas where we see significant upside for the next decade. The first one is HTEC, HTEC. That is the Healthcare Technology and Innovation ETF. Uses the same recipe as Robo, but provides exposure to the best-in-class companies in areas where technology is changing the healthcare industry. So it's diagnostics, genomics, precision medicine, robotics, and so on. And the second one is Think, THNQ is the ticker, and that's the Artificial Intelligence ETF, which is focused on the companies that are leading the AI industry. Looking at data, looking at compute, looking at promising applications across many different industries.
Now, as a reminder, you can find this episode as well as many other episodes on our website, homeofetfs.com. That's homeofetfs.com. That's a wrap on today's edition of The Exchange, brought to you by the New York Stock Exchange, the home of ETFs.